Good morning. Welcome back. It's Friday Coffe Talks. We're here for episode 98, and we are talking over coffee on a Friday. It's been a few weeks off. Thank you so much for those of you who've been patient, waiting for new episodes. We, unfortunately, a few weeks ago lost my mother-in-law. We affectionately knew her as Gaga, but she'd had some health problems over the last few months, and unfortunately, it was her time to go and be with the Lord, and we are very sad and are grieving and processing the best that we can. But so I took a few weeks off to be with family, support my wife and my kids and my in-laws and all that kind of stuff. So appreciate your patience, but we're back. I've got a wonderful episode for you. It's been a good few weeks of work and travel and all that kind of stuff. Travel has been big. I've been living in airports recently. So excited to kind of get back to that routine a little bit, but I'm also excited to get back into the routine of Friday Coffe Talks episodes, and I've got a really good one for you today. I'm talking with somebody. This is the first interview I've done with somebody that I don't know super well, and so I'm very excited. This is somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a while, and so I'll quit talking about it, and we can jump right in. Please enjoy my discussion with Troy Hipolito. Welcome back. It's Friday Coffe Talks. I am here not by myself. It has been a few weeks and we're back. So I've got a great interview for you today. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a person who, for fans of the show, needs no introduction. You've seen his face around here before, but he is a LinkedIn influencer. He's a podcast host. He's a content creator, host of The Troy Show, a marketer, a salesman, all the things you could do. It's Troy Hipolito. Welcome to the show, Troy.
Wow, I'd like to meet this guy. He sounds pretty good. But thank you for the awesome introduction.
So for those of you who have seen, there's an episode a few months ago, I guess it was, where I talked about some of the best and the worst cold calls that I've gotten. Cold reach out, cold email, cold messages. And if you just so happen to remember, Troy was one of the faces of a really, really good cold call that I got. He uses video super well. And since then, we've exchanged some messages back and forth and acquaintances. I guess we don't know each other super well, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little better today.
Oh, thank you very much. And I watch your shows quite often, and they're very I wouldn't say eclectic, but they have a abundance of different things on it, and that's one of the things I enjoy.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Troy. So for those of us who may not know you super well, kind of give me the background of how the legend was made, how you got to where you are.
Oh my goodness. Well, nowadays I'm known as the not so boring LinkedIn guy. But previous to that, I was in IT. I had a company called ISO Interactive. We did gamification. We did a lot of Coca-Cola websites, Xbox mobile apps, really cool type stuff. Got a little burnt out on it, and we're trying to figure out how do we keep this business going.
Right.
And I'm a programmer by trade, and more of a systems guy. And Atlanta, where we're in Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of these companies that we did work for gets these huge tax breaks. And these are Fortune 500 companies and things like that. And they started taking the companies in-house. That it killed the entire freelance or agency type of model. And we couldn't figure out oh man, what are we going to do? And then all our friends, all the agencies that were our friends that were bringing us work were now our enemies.
Oh.
And so it was very difficult because agency market's tough because they don't want us to know their client. And so they're fighting over the same pennies. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I ran into a buddy of mine, a very similar agency. And I said, hey buddy, how are you pulling all this work in? I said, my stuff is much better than yours. I was just kidding, right? I was razzing. My stuff is maybe a little different flavor. And he said, LinkedIn. I said, what do you mean, this resume place? What are you talking about? And it hit me that he was a really good relationship person. And I was what we call a terrible dater. Like in real life too. So a lot of times I have type A traits. I'm a programmer, right? I'm a system guy. I'm on or off. You tell me to do something, it gets done, right? I don't really mince words and things like that. And in dating, it's awful because in dating, whether it's a human or a business, old-fashioned dating principles are so important. You have to get to know someone, right?
Right.
And you just want to experience and understand what they're doing. And if you can help them, great. If not, it's totally fine. But that is the effort you need to put into it. So I built a system around old-fashioned dating that works really well on LinkedIn.
That's really cool.
And it only works well if you want to help people. Now, if you just want to sell stuff, that's their only not gonna work well, because they can see through that. So if you're authentically really trying to help individuals, and that help is perceived as valuable, business is a byproduct.
Right.
And that's how I got started.
Oh, I love that. That's a great line. Business is a byproduct.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I don't think I've ever heard the analogy of like business relationships to dating relationships, but it does actually make a lot of sense now that you say it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's identical. It's identical. I mean, if you look at it at its face value, it's like, would you, if you were single and you found this beautiful woman, would you say, I find you beautiful, I want to marry you, have 2 children and a picket fence
Right.
today, right? That is unfortunately what people are doing on LinkedIn. And it's just disgusting. It's just like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
And then so you really need to know how to communicate as a human. So it was a learning experience. So I had to build a system and I had to break it down to understand some of these principles. So I'm a little late bloomer, which,
With some of the messages I get on a daily basis, it makes me think of like somebody putting an engagement ring in the mail and sending it out and saying, seeing what kind of reaction they get. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people think that it's going to work, because you're right. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the key is for success is how do you do a little scale on LinkedIn and personalization together. So systems with personalization, So how can we get the most impact with the least amount of time?
Right, right.
Because a lot of people have businesses to run,
Sure.
And they don't have all the time in the world. So if I can get 30 minutes a day from a small business, a solopreneur or entrepreneur, and they have a way to actually help people, they can become very successful, versus monkeying around on LinkedIn 12 hours a day. Like, no one wants to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, but not really.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even in my industry, so I sell storage software, and it's great storage software. I believe in it and I stand behind the product, but I'm not really selling my product. What I'm selling to people is the ability to take what I help them with off their plate and focus on the more important things, so they don't have to waste their time keeping systems up and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I mean, and by getting to know them over time, they end up liking you.
Well, I'd hope so.
Well, no. Well, to be completely honest, 80% of the decisions making it is if they actually like you. Your product is kind of like the 20% area, So if they like you and trust you, they're like, okay, there's 3 people offering this storage solution, right? These 2 people are kind of douchebags, So you're the natural person to go to, and I trust this guy. You got to think. People will work with you if they like you, what kind of person are you? So would I go to a high-end bar with you and have a drink? Right? No, seriously.
Yeah.
So would I have a drink with you? Because that tells me this person trusts me, because when you're out in a social environment and drinking, you are giving out personal information.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
If you're worth any kind of money, you don't want to be blabbing to anyone. You want someone you can trust. So if you're at that level of trust, decision makes it a lot easier,
Yeah. So let's talk LinkedIn for just a second. I find this interesting because I initially launched my show on LinkedIn and then grew to YouTube and Spotify and all the other things now. So My wife has given me a hard time plenty in the past about my decision to start on LinkedIn. She's doesn't use LinkedIn a whole lot, and so she's like,
Oh,
why would you do that? Like, there's nobody on LinkedIn. So take me through
no
that
one, huh?
decision.
Oh yeah. So for me, for LinkedIn, well, LinkedIn has over 800 million plus. I think it's 850 million now, right? Something like that. It's probably higher. 50% of them are active daily. Think about that. It's a
Yeah,
huge market, And then how many clients do you really need? So there's no competition. If you really think about it, all these coaches, I have a lot of clients that are coaches. I'm a coach myself, but more on the LinkedIn side. And you would think that there's so many coaches that there's no one. No, some of these people are making very good money, but they don't have to have a high volume.
yeah,
I only bring on one client a month, maybe two. That's it. So if you want a profitable business, wouldn't it be great to really help that individual grow their brand, their business, and their peace, their way of life, versus you know throwing a bunch of stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks is kind of not the way to go.
yeah. No, I completely agree. I've always used LinkedIn a lot, probably more than most, but it's so valuable. It's probably the most untapped of all the social medias. Everybody wants to be a YouTube star. Everybody wants to be on TikTok now, but there's not a whole lot of people. I'm not saying I want to be a LinkedIn star, but but it's such a good platform. It's vastly underutilized.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, there's a lot of opportunities too. Think about LinkedIn and say that's this one thing. It's not. It's very diverse. I have a show, the Troy Show,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it runs on a LinkedIn event and through a LinkedIn Live. So I capture one and push it to the other, a LinkedIn Live with a guest on the live show. Well, I usually pair up, with Restream or some software for my LinkedIn Live, and it goes on their LinkedIn Live. It goes to my YouTube channel. It goes to my Facebook channel and all that stuff. So you get one person, you got six channels
Yeah,
right off the bat. So you may only have, say, 20 or 30 or whatever people that will just show up and see that one episode live. But just on my channel, there's another 1,000 people just on the LinkedIn Live that does that sees the replay.
yeah,
And you got to, well, multiply about two, three, four, depending on where your audience is. And that's before you can take it even further. You can move it to your podcast, and you can move it towards streaming TV. That's another platform. And so that's just one area. So on LinkedIn, you have the direct communications area, and that's kind of how we met.
hmm
You have the networking portions, and then you have your content creation.
right.
So there's a number of different ways for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs to really kind of figure out, where do I fit in this ecosystem? So it's really fun, but fun and exciting. But it's also very helpful, because it brings in the right amount of people.
Yeah,
Oh no, the
absolutely.
right types of people. Excuse me.
My next frontier that I'm working on getting better at is taking content from my video stuff that I make on YouTube and here on LinkedIn and turning that into short form like reels on Instagram and stuff.
Oh yeah,
I don't have that skill yet, but I'm working on it. That's my next
yeah. It's a
frontier.
Gary V model. Well, you
Yep.
don't have to. You know what? You, I'm sure you don't. Do you do all your stuff yourself?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
One
you
man
are you
show
are a
over here.
crazy man. You can hire a good assistant and
Yep.
you can train them.
Yep.
Cut your workload in half. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
And get a good person. Ask me, I'll find somebody for you, and they will cut down. And do the whole Gary V model into that short form content. And then you can establish your own style. My videos on LinkedIn, I use two tools, v.io,
Mhm.
which is just an online video editing tool, and on my phone I use Instagram.
Okay.
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
because Instagram, you can get in out of a video probably in 15 minutes. They have excellent music tracks on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Great how they do the typography. You can put stuff together, and it doesn't have to be studio quality. It has to be the real quality.
Right, right, right. It's you're
So
watching on
when
your phone,
people,
so
yeah, so people like real people. And so content like that is not super hard. It can be time consuming because on LinkedIn, you have the different formats. You have polls that do really well. You have the carousels, which are PDFs, multi slides, and stuff. And a lot of stuff takes planning. Matter of fact, last week I was posting stuff on how to schedule 30 days ahead and all that stuff. But to do all that stuff yourself, yeah, your wife is
it's a lot.
probably angry for you at a reason, lack of time. It
Yeah,
takes time.
it
So
does.
so
Yeah.
everyone needs a little bit of help sometimes.
I can't tell you how many nights it's been like 2 a.m. and I'm hitting upload on the YouTube video after I finish editing it, getting it all up there. It's just when you can fit it in. But
Yeah, yes. So if you use stuff like Restream, it'll send it out to everywhere, YouTube and all that stuff at once. And again, if you get a good assistant or some kind of service that feels you and knows your quality, you can reduce your workload
yeah,
a great deal. So that I don't know, just saying.
yeah. No, it's good feedback. So I want to pick up on something you just said about real people being
Mhm.
behind brands and things like that. I think um, even just within the last probably 10 years, it seemed like one of the only ways or the biggest way to get ahead was to have an IBM or a Google or Microsoft or Facebook on your resume. You kind of stole some of their credibility and put that on your resume. But recently, over the past few years, we've seen this shift towards personal branding and everybody carving out their own identity and their own brand. What do you think has driven that shift, and why do you think it's so important for us?
Oh, there's a couple of things. Let's start with the obvious pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
People are stuck in there. And then also, people are getting older and they still want to connect with people. So you have that combination of, very high skilled professionals that want to make a difference in life. That's the rise of a lot of these coaches and consultants and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So those are the two biggest driving forces just to be fulfilled. I think a lot of people want to, there's that kind of an awakening, if you will. They want to do good in their life because honestly, when I help someone, I feel good.
Yeah,
And
sure.
people are now real. It's kind of a psychology thing. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but all I know is that when I meet with someone, I don't try to sell them. I try to help them.
Sure.
And so I listen to them, and my helping is only one of three things going to happen. You put out good energy in the universe, and they never speak, poorly of you, and you feel good. Whatever's 15 minutes of your time.
Right.
The other thing is they do what you tell them or suggest, and it lessens their pain. And they're serious, and they look to the left and look to the right, and they say, I have 20 other issues I want Troy to fix, and they hire me, and the third is a lot of times they will send recommendations. And if you are serious about your business, you'll know that 50% of your business is based on recommendation, but other people are tooting your horn versus yourself,
Yeah.
so that's, so all those different things are really why it's been important to get a brand. And you don't have to be perfect. I'm quirky as hell. Like I'm a nerdy guy, and but I'm bluntly honest. And people can say, "Oh, I could hang out with him," or "I really understand what he's saying." That they get it, and they want that level of being authentic versus corporate.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's such a huge thing. Authenticity over the suit. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, and the biggest obstacle I have as far as accepting a client, if they are in finance, for example, they have a lot of rules.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh yeah, I got a ton of this materials that we're allowed to post on LinkedIn." I said, you mean those corporate documents that no one will read? I said, people don't buy from your stuff; they buy from you. And so I urged them, and this may not be, kosher, But I said, you need to put stories out there, and you should know your industry well enough to know what you can say and you can't say.
Absolutely.
And 98%, 95% of them are so afraid to lose their job. They will not post anything. I said, well, then I can't take you as a client if you're not gonna, provide that kind of value to the audience. It's just gonna be a waste of my time.
Yeah.
So I'm here to help people that want to help others.
I come from IBM. That was my first break into IT was at IBM, and they're very buttoned up, dark suit, white shirt, black tie, clean shaven. The IBM model that you get introduced to that on day one, and so that's where I got my start. And it was very by the book, very corporate, like you're saying. And then as I grew into my role and I expanded my career and all that kind of stuff, to take a little detour, my beard is a family tradition. So my dad did it with me and my sister, and it's a tradition that when your wife gets pregnant, you don't cut your beard until the baby's born. And so I've done it with all three of my kids.
So what is she, 15 months pregnant?
No. Well, so with all three of my kids, I grew my beard out. And then when we had our third daughter in December 2020, I never got the hey, it's time to cut off your beard. And so I just kept it. But part of that has been realizing that the power, I guess, for lack of a better term, of that authenticity you're talking about. I can't tell you how many meetings I've walked out of that I send a follow-up email and they're like, oh yeah, you're the guy with the beard. Just because I'm being me and I'm expressing myself through the way that I look. So
yeah, you do want to be remembered. And if everyone looks like you, sounds like you, how the heck one of the things that I miss having my gamification company is that when I went to a bar and I met someone, they asked me what I did. And I'm of mixed race. So my mother is from Switzerland and my dad's Asian. He's Filipino, right?
Okay.
So I'm Eurasian. So I call it Swissipino. Right?
Swissipino. I was going to say Swasian.
Yeah, well, that's good too. Swissipino has a different ring to it.
I like that.
So we're at a bar, and a woman asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm the #1 Swissipino game designer in the world." She was like, "Really?" And so I love but I can't convert that on LinkedIn,
right?
So it just doesn't, because they're gonna think about it. They're like, "What the heck is going?" And it doesn't fit in that model. I wish it would fit in. So I just said the not so boring LinkedIn. I don't even like that tagline, but I needed some way to figure out how am I different than all these other LinkedIn people, right? And it sounds silly, not so boring LinkedIn, but they remember, oh yeah, you're not the boring guy.
Stands out.
And the truth is, I'm boring as hell. I just flipped it on its head. I'm like, what am I not? And then I wrote the tagline. So yeah, you want to have that level of being authentic and have that differentiator between you and other people. That's you and I doing the same thing. I can't even grow a beard. I can't. My son has a full beard like yours, but I cannot grow one at all. So when we go out, they think he's older than me.
Oh no. I used to get hazed, if I'm honest. I used to get hazed in college because I had a full beard, but there was a gap right here where it wouldn't connect. And everybody used to make fun of me. And now I've got Civil War beard.
Yeah, you're like, look at me now.
Yeah. All right. So Troy, I was talking to my wife last night and I mentioned that we were going to talk today. And I asked her if she had anything that I should ask you. And she was like, my wife is all about the, not that anything I'm asking is hard hitting or anything like that, but she's about the silly kind of rapid fire questions. So I've got a couple from her. What is the last thing that you screenshotted?
Oh my gosh, I screenshotted. Oh, I think I accidentally screenshotted a time where I was at a bar and it had this end of an iPhone and a drink.
Oh,
and I think it was the screenshot was a drink called a blackberry whiskey lemonade.
Oh, well, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I'm a liquor drinker, so
okay.
What it is they put lemonade, they put blackberries in it, and they squish it in there and they filter it out, and the liquor of choice I use is Jack Daniels.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
yeah.
That sounds great. I've heard, anyways, that sounds delicious. Okay. So the other one that I love to ask is, what is something that you are irrationally confident about?
Oh
I have one I can share if I can maybe kind of
yeah,
get
get
you in
me
the mood.
started.
All right.
Let's do
Yeah.
that.
I always have to because people are like, I don't know. All right. So irrationally confident. I am the world's greatest scraper of a bowl of brownie batter. I can use a little rubber spatula on a bowl of brownie batter and scrape it so clean that you could just put it right back in the cabinet. You don't even have to wash it.
Oh yeah, I'm what we call bluntly honest. Like, and before I used to be even more. Now that I'm gonna call it a late bloomer,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
didn't have any manners before. So I'm aware now of what's kosher or not. But I am bluntly honest with client, and that's what they pay me for.
Yeah.
And even even with my friends and stuff, they said, "What's the problem?" I said, "You really want me to tell you?" And I will tell them, and I'm telling them out of love. And
Sure.
I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm like, look, you know,
Your
so
breath is kicking today.
try 3 Tic Tacs instead of one.
That's a good one. Yeah. Well, that does take some irrational confidence to be able to say something tough to somebody and know that they're going to take it the right way. Okay, cool. So I want to wrap up with one more question around your video stuff. So tell me about your first video that you ever created.
It was awful.
Mine was too.
It was um I don't know if I scripted it, but it was just bad angle, bad lighting, bad camera, bad sound, and I was telling them how to do something, you know, and just kind of hosh poshing it together. And it was a LinkedIn thing, I think.
Yep.
You know, I did some nice videos before, but I don't think I used to do 3D anime. I used to do that kind of stuff before, but that's kind of a different thing than what we're talking about, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I was really trying to explain some stuff, and I was like, man, I wouldn't even listen to me.
when
You
you
know. And
sorry,
go, sorry, go ahead.
when you filmed that first one, did you set out with the intention to be a content creator, or was it just kind of spur of the moment?
Um, I'm the kind of guy that finds, like, if I find how to do something, I want to share it. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so cool. I want to like tell people about this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then later on, I found out that I had feelings, you know? And I said, oh, I can't be like just talking to these. And the videos are pretty long for LinkedIn at the time. So my shortest video was 5, 10 minutes long, or no, it was close to 10 minutes long. No one watches those on LinkedIn. You know, that's more of a kind of a YouTube thing.
Right.
And LinkedIn is my platform. And so I had to realize, I said, how do I get the most impact with the shortest amount of time?
Right.
Because if you're creating video content, I create all sorts of content, slides. I love to do the what we call carousels,
Right.
because it's actually more interaction. The videos now, I like to do the long format videos regardless, just because I have a certain style on it. But how do I get a concept and idea out in under 60 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
you know, without seeming rushed? And I'm finding out that, you know what, if I can do 3 tips on A, B, and C, you know, if I can break up my content in a way that there's a pattern, like what you were talking about before, like Mondays are more about how did I fix someone's problem, or what challenge did I have that I had to overcome, you know, what thing happened to me and what lesson did I learn, something along those lines. And Fridays is always about looking back, introspective, family, friends type stuff. And in between is, you know, whatever you have going on, you know, tips and things like that.
Right.
And so when I'm creating this video content, I want to create it. Most of them are fairly short, because anyone that's looking at your content on LinkedIn, you're the expert in whatever the thing that you do, and that person is an expert whether they do. But I'm not an expert at what they do, so I'm not at that level. So I'm at the third grade level, if you will. Yeah, seriously. So I know just enough,
Right.
and so if you're telling me something, don't use all this technical jargon. Because I'm like, this guy is just a jerk.
Yeah.
Is what I would think. And so give them one bit of information where they can take it in, like, oh, I can actually apply this,
Right.
and that helps in that trust factor. So
Absolutely.
create videos that are trustworthy.
Okay. That makes total sense. Well, Troy, the last question always around here is always the same. Let's say you're out walking the streets of Atlanta. You come across a brand new coffee shop that you've never been to before. You tuck in there. What is the go-to coffee shop order for you?
I don't drink coffee.
Oh, no. Okay.
I hate to tell you this though. I love the smell of coffee.
Yeah.
And my kids, my older kids, they're grown now. When they're young, they love coffee because their mother is from Costa Rica, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's in their blood. And the youngest one says, "Daddy, Fafi."
Coffee.
Like, Fafi. I was like, this guy's addicted already. But I love going into a coffee shop and getting caffeine. This is my worst sin.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll sit in and I'll have a Mountain Dew and I'll crank away.
You
So
still like
that's
the
me. My
atmosphere.
apologies.
Maybe not the drink. You like the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, atmosphere is everything.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Troy, this has been wonderful. You are the best. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate you being here with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. This has been Friday Coffee Talks, episode 98, and we'll catch you next week.